So how many years have you been out of the organization?
Close to 30 years.
Do you think that the organization had an effect on where you ended financially as a young adult?
Yes, because they didn't do anything. They didn't provide any financial help the way other organizations do. They're great for exploiting you and your time and your financial resources, but when you are suffering hardship, they don't. And I remember I was pretty angry when a relative of mine had to get basic help from Catholic Community Services because the JW organization didn't lift a finger. But they didn't have a problem with you giving your money as donation for the organization's agenda, but they do not. It's a very apathetic thing they have towards people who are struggling, and it's a deliberate thing because I noticed that they'll make apologetic excuses for the organization and how they're structured. Because I remember having arguments with people even after I'd left the organization that came to my mother's door. And I would say, no, you know why I became an atheist? It's very simple. Your behavior opened my eyes. Nothing I didn't lose faith. I just saw through the lies you tell and the emotional manipulation you do to people to keep them in this cult. If you really were following biblical principles, all those millions of dollars you got from property sales and people willing you their properties before they passed away, you would have taken the money and resources and housed your flock. You would have actually taken care of the flock. You would have made sure they had food, they had clothes, they had access to better education so that they could have better jobs. But they do not invest that way in any of their members, and I'm not surprised that it wasn't just me that left when I did. There was a whole bunch of other people that took off also.
Why do you think Jehovah's Witnesses don't provide things like housing or food banks to their members?
I think it's because the organization is a scam. They take the money for things that the governing body uses willy-nilly, but if you think about it, if you're not celebrating holidays, they expect you to give that money to the organization. And not going to higher education, all those thousands of dollars you could donate to the organization, but it's keeping the membership poor and ignorant, which is perfect if you're going to, engage in narcissistic abuse and manipulation of these people to keep them trapped in this organization. It's very kind of parasitical. I mean, I ended up going homeless. I ended up having a mini stroke in 2005. I, had to claw my way out of that. I had to build my own social network online. I ended up, if it hadn't been for the way they treated me, I would have probably still be doing a lot of stupid things with that organization. But I don't think they realize that they are creating activists against them because of their apathetic attitude. I would have never gotten involved in homeless advocacy. I would have never gotten involved with the Huffington Post. I would have never met the cool people like Mark Horvath from Invisible People and We Are Visible, because he's met a lot of different people from different faiths, and it's the same thing. If an organization, it doesn't matter who it is, doesn't take care of their flock, they're the ones who are going to go out and tell everybody, hey, they don't help anybody. They only exist for their own interests. And a lot of stuff like that is kind of a red flag that this is a cult, not an actual philanthropic organization.
All right, tell us how you've benefited from leaving and where you're at right now.
Well, right now, I work at a hospital, but I actually ended up working 2 jobs just to put myself through 3 different colleges, just to upgrade, and it made a big difference because once I wasn't afraid of higher education, I actually got better paying jobs. I was able to talk to different people, get a more realistic perspective from meeting different people that the organization would tell you not to talk to, mainly people from other religious organizations, people from philosophical organizations. I made a lot of friends with college professors and other people that were atheists. I made friends with, and including, I do have relatives that are part of the LGBTQ community, and because the organization is homophobic, if I hadn't have left, I would have never got to meet people and saw them for their humanity instead of what other people tried to vilify them as being. Ever since I left the organization, I got involved in a lot of community, I would say the first thing was I got involved in homeless activism because I was homeless, and I used to basically update on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube my experiences with day-to-day homelessness, living out of a vehicle, raising my 2 kids on 4 wheels. I met a lot of really cool people I would never have met if I had stayed within the JW organization. In fact, it was people outside of the organization that helped me get to an escape velocity, because you do need a lot of community support and real-time resources to get you up and out of homelessness. The biggest thing was being able to afford housing, even though I was working 2 jobs to the point of a mini stroke, and I had money saved. You will end up spending it trying to keep your vehicle maintained. Plus, you know, if you stay in motels, it'll cost 3 times as much as an apartment, or a lot of times a mortgage. The other problem was that since I got to meet a lot of people that were not JWs, they could see through me and my daily posts and a lot of the videos I used to make what the reality of poverty is when you don't have real-time help and a support system. It took me several years to build an online support system. A lot of people on my Facebook channel and the Twitter feed and YouTube know who I am. They've seen me in media before, as well as showing up at town hall meetings, city council meetings, and things like this. One of the coolest people I ever met was Elaine Simmons from PSK. She was one of the first people I actually reached out to. And, you know, Elaine is one of the coolest people I met. When I talked to her about what I was seeing with homeless youth, she even would meet with me and come to a few of South King County's city hall meetings about homeless, because I was telling her these are things I've seen, and she would show up and then give her opinion based on her experience. And she was one of the first people, community members I met, that was actually taking a lead in homeless issues. There were other people like Rex Holbein, Mark Horvath, and pretty soon when I built my online audience, I started meeting people from all over the world. And it dawned on me, I would never have done that if I would have stayed in a doomsday cult like what the JWs are. Now, because of COVID, I've been working in hospitals, and my activism has kind of slowed down just a little bit, because 10 and 12-hour work days kind of take your time away from everything else. But you have to kind of make time now that things have, I would say, become a little bit more regimented with the state and local authorities trying to get a handle on COVID. I do have some days where I can just go and meet people that are interested in activism, and I like to talk to people in the community, because they're going to tell me what's happening every day on the streets versus somebody who is sitting from a podium that has no idea what life out on the streets is like, or even struggling families that are barely holding on to their housing but can't afford food or the electric bill or the phone bill. There's stuff that just everyday people, if they talk to each other and aren't afraid of each other, will find out on their own. You don't have to be told who to be friends with or what to get involved in. When you yourself see this every day on the street, you see it when you're in a parking lot, at the bus stop, wherever you're at, there are people that are, if you listen into their conversation or just when they strike up a conversation with you, you know, we're all human. There's a solidarity there that, you know, if you don't let outside voices try to gaslight you on a regular basis, will help you have a more balanced perspective on the rest of the world and the rest of humanity. Right now, I'm taking my days off and trying to get to know people in the community, just so I can stay current with what's going on now. And it could be anything. It just depends on what's going on at the time. I'm glad that I was able to meet with people online to talk about how to get out of the JW organization, because once you figure out that they're not really doing anything for you, but it's all about you doing for them, you need to get out as soon as possible, because number one, we only have so much time on this planet, and it's better for you to take care of yourself, your family, and get your finances in order. If I was not in the JW cult, I would have went to college a lot sooner and probably wouldn't have had the financial problems and the social problems I had from being so heavily indoctrinated. I was woefully unprepared for what the real world was like outside of the organization. So, you know, even the young people now, it doesn't matter what organization they're representing. If they come to my door, they're probably going to get a debate they weren't expecting to. And hopefully I've planted a seed in their mind to really think about what they're being asked to believe in and how they're using their time and resources. Yeah, I mean, one other thing I'd like to say is one of the biggest reasons why I became an atheist is because I am, you know, really strongly opposed to this notion of selling people the idea that you have to wait to some vague date in the future or some afterlife in order to see justice or a good standard of living now. I mean, to me, that's gaslighting people to remain a victim, to be constantly manipulated into other people's agendas when you could be working on building your future and the kind of life you want now.
That's good.